It's a special day of the year. If you don't know, it's global. It's our charitable giving holiday. 20 million people participated last year and donated more than $3 billion globally to amazing causes. So it's very exciting. And we wanted to do something to give back to you on Giving Tuesday. And we thought, what better way than to talk about all of the amazing impact that you've had on this world through your generosity this year. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a fun virtual tour of some of the projects. And we're also going to meet some amazing partners, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end where you're free to ask us any questions, and we will answer them. So let's see. Now is a good time to introduce myself. I will be your captain today because we're going to be taking a flight, friends, around the world. I'm Joanna Marshall. I'm the Director of Development and Marketing, and I also am the Andes Amazon Grant Lead, so we'll be talking about that later. And my co-pilot today is the wonderful Kimberly Absher, who's our Marketing Communications Associate. Say hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Kimberly.
I don't know today, and you'll be meeting all of our staff as well. And actually, I'll ask the staff to wave. Some people are not going to get to chat today, but hi, everyone. So that's Planet Women. And before we jump into our actual work, I wanted to set the scene a little bit and say we just released our 2023 annual report that came out last week. You may have seen it in your inbox. And our theme this year is Gender Equity is the Answer. And what we mean by that is if you want to do one thing to change the world and create a better future, empower women, because that makes a real difference. Empowering women impacts all key issues in the world, especially around sustainable development, whether that's nutrition and soil health or children's health, poverty alleviation, peacemaking. It makes such a difference in this world. This is a beautiful little graphic that someone created for us. So that's why we say gender equity is the answer. And we are so excited that our community has come together and donated to allow us to shift the power balance in the conservation space. So we have some really awesome stats that back up what I just said in all of these different areas. And you can find those in the annual report. There's research papers linked. So we'll put the link to the annual report in the chat at the end of this meeting in case you want to have those, maybe use them with your family over the holidays. And I will just ask you, test you a little bit. What percent of food is globally produced by women? Do you know? If you know the answer, you can put it in the chat. And things like this, food production makes a really big difference because what food is produced, what crops are produced, and how they're produced affects nutrition that families are getting. It affects soil health, it affects biodiversity health and forest health. And the answer is 50 to 80% of the food produced globally, depending on the country you're looking at, is produced by women. So that is a massive number. And women are making choices in how they're producing food, how they're tending for livestock and harvesting crops. And that affects so many different things for nature and for community health. And so that's just one example of a statistic. But yet women are not equally resourced or equally represented in the environmental movement, and we are here to change that. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. Unfortunately, less than 1% of global environmental funding goes to women-led initiatives on the ground. And together, our community is changing that. This is going to be a big shift, but it's something that we are chipping away at together. And so that's why Planet Women was created. Our mission is to partner with women to care for the planet. We're very passionate about this. And so before we do our tour of the projects, I wanted to just refresh your memory about our two strategies because that kind of ties all these projects together. So we have protecting nature and support communities, and we have transforming the culture of conservation. And these two things really work together in tandem to make change. And for protecting nature, this is our field strategy. We work in the Andes Amazon, the Colorado River Basin, and the Congo River Basin. And we offer grant funds to amazing projects that are co-created and led by women in frontline communities. And we also provide wraparound support with things like gender mainstreaming and coaching organizations in how to embed gender equity into their projects. And then for our transform strategy, that's really our leadership programs. That's transforming how we lead, creating a new model for leadership and getting more women and more diverse women into key positions. And so we have two leadership programs, the 100 Women Pathway and the Regenerative Leadership Project, and we are going to tour all of these. So let's get started. I'm going to turn it over to the only truly licensed pilot on our staff, Christine Ziegler.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Jojo, and thank you for wearing the captain's hat. I'll don my headset since we are going on a flight today. Although when I wear it, then I can't hear a dang thing. So this is just for looks. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to one and all. You are all most welcome here today. I am your Captain Christine Ziegler, and we're going to be flying over the Congo River Basin, the Amazon River Basin, and the Colorado River Basin. Checked out the route, checked out the weather. It's going to be very smooth, stable, calm air. And I know you have a lot of choices for organizations on Giving Tuesday for sure. And we just appreciate that you're taking some of your day to spend with us at Planet Women Airlines. Where is the Colorado River Basin? Well, it's quite a big area. And what you will see out of the window are many states, many places that benefit from this mighty river. It serves 40 million people across 7 US states and Mexico. It's home to indigenous cultures who have been the stewards of this land since time immemorial. They continue to care and steward the land, fighting for their sovereignty and fighting for the rights to this precious water. If the Colorado River Basin and all of the states and the country of Mexico and the US, if that was just one country, just imagine it as one nation, it would be about the fifth largest economy on the planet. So a really big deal. And if you're eating salad on the East Coast during winter, it's because of Colorado River water. Yet the amount of water that's actually allocated to all the states and to Mexico is really exceeding the amount that actually comes from Mother Nature. And so you add on to the fact that the tribes who have some of the most original and oldest water rights, up to 25% of the river's flow, have never been able to access all of that water. You can see there's a really big deficit problem. It's like this metaphor or this analogy. Imagine that you just graduated and you're getting your first apartment and it costs $1,750 per month. But you only make $1,350 per month. So how are you going to make up that difference? Well, maybe you're really lucky and someone loaned you the money, or maybe you're just quite the ingenious person and you get a second job or a third job or an Uber driver and you make up the difference. And so that's what you do with your own household budget, right? That's the reality of it. Um, but with the Colorado River system, we can't make it rain more. We can't make it snow more. And snow is really critical. That's what falls in the mountains in the Rockies and melts into the riverways that feed this system. But though we don't control Mother Nature, we do control ourselves. And I'm really proud to present to you what you made possible. Planet Women, with your help, in 2023 granted $167,000 to 7 partner organizations in the Colorado River Basin. And more than 60% of those funds went to Indigenous-led organizations. This is supporting a variety of amazing projects, including riparian habitat restoration, leadership programs that empower women, especially centering Indigenous women leaders who work on natural resources, including the Indigenous Women's Leadership Network, the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, and one of our newest partners, the Tohono O'odham Nation's Young Women's Gathering. I just love the photo on the next slide. There's a group of young girls who are all holding each other. We helped fund their Young Women's Gathering this past spring, and those young girls are the future stewards of this land. They live right outside of Tucson on the Tohono O'odham Reservation, and they're part of a plan that we have to look at the full breadth of the diversity of voices that are needed to manage and steward and understand and appreciate and care for the river. These girls are looking at their self-love, their strength, their self-respect. They're looking to their elders. They're trying to understand their identities as Native women. And we believe that this holistic approach is what is needed at this time. Look, remarkable women lead all kinds of agencies, state governments, tribal governments, environmental nonprofits, or other organizations that are addressing the drought. And yet, to date, they haven't really had a single place where they could gather. Indigenous women, allies, male allies, to help each other, to support each other, to really understand what they can do as the river becomes less and less of a river that flows with a lot of water and is consistent from year to year. Although last winter we were lucky, we did receive a lot of water, thankfully. So now there is a new place, a new gathering, a new convening so that we can come together. And here to tell you more about it is our brand new managing director, Emma Robbins, who joined us last summer from the Navajo Water Project at Dig Deep. Welcome, and over to you, Emma.
Thanks, Christine. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and JoJo and Kimberly for organizing this. So I have worked in the WASH, or water and sanitation hygiene sector, and the human rights sector for almost 8 years. And I had never personally experienced anything like the Women in Water convening, which just took place like last week or the week before. But it was one of the most impactful things that I had ever attended. And not only were we talking about issues and solutions with the Colorado River Basin, but we were talking about what it means to be a woman, or what it means to be femme, or what it means to be Native or queer working in these spaces. And that was something that I think was really life-changing for me. I know it was very life-changing for me, but also something that I know needs to be replicated in other communities, whether those are on Native nations or not. Working in the water world for so long, and towards the end of that path, moving towards policy work and understanding things that go into the Colorado River that we, the people who benefit off of it, don't see every day, is something that we need to make more accessible. Not only getting that information out there, but putting it in a way that everybody can understand. I recently took a trip myself on the Colorado River, and that was completely life-changing. I'm from the Little Colorado River Gorge area, and I had never seen that. And so one thing that I know we're striving to do at Planet Women is not only have convenings like this, but to give that access to other women and femmes, no matter what that looks like. I'm really proud of the fact that we have been including Indigenous peoples. As we know, many Native women, many Indigenous women are leaders in our community and caring for us. JoJo, that's a new statistic for me with farming, but in that way, but also when it comes to water. Oftentimes mental health and arts are things that we think as sort of secondary to having clean running water, but it's actually just as important as being able to do things like wash your hands or have drinking water in your home. And so it's something that we need to fight for, to have these safe spaces and experiences where we can all come together and not only learn about complicated policies when it comes to water, or stress the importance of water poverty and the solutions, like I said, but also to care for one another and make sure that we are all elevating each other. I'm gonna pass it along. I believe Carl is up next, right?
All right. I think this is going to be the fastest flight I've ever taken from Colorado to the Congo River Basin. So we're going from the dry desert, the Colorado River Basin, to the second largest rainforest on the planet. So I'll put my hat on for a second, and we're already there, so I'll take that off. Last time I went to Congo River, actually that purple dot, if you look on this slide right in the middle, that's where one of our partners works. We have Ingrid and Steve here from Congo Education Partners and Joe Technical College. Last time I went there, it took me 2 days by plane and 2 days by motorcycle, on the back of a motorcycle, which was not very comfortable, so I prefer this. So Planet Women focus in Sub-Saharan Africa has two main focal areas. One is the Congo River Basin, which you can see that dark green area that covers from Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, the Republic of Congo, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And to the east, you'll see another couple of spots. There's a mountain range there called the Albertine Rift that spans Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and parts of Tanzania. Those are our two focal areas. Those 4 dots are some of the partners that we're going to be talking about here. Next slide, please. So why have we chosen these two areas? First, it's the Congo Basin is, as I said, the second largest rainforest on the planet. It is home to 10,000 species of animals, 1,000 species of birds, 600 species of forests, and quite a bit of charismatic megafauna. As you see here, the forest elephants, which I believe are critically endangered. We also have mountain gorillas, lowland and highland, bonobos, chimpanzees, along with a variety of other key species. It's also the home to 75 million people, and it is the largest carbon storage, or the largest carbon sink on the planet. So it contains 39 billion tons of carbon in the soil alone, in the peat alone. That doesn't include the forest on top of it. All right, next slide too. So what have we been doing in the Congo River Basin and in the Albertine Rift? We've granted more than $280,000 to 6 partners, distributed 63,000 in seed grants, and my colleague Liliana is going to talk a little bit about that later. We've launched the first offerings of our Center for Gender Equity and Environment, and we've been able to improve conservation, improve livelihoods for women, support women's career goals, and support women-focused projects. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to go quickly through some of our partners and what they're doing. So this is a picture from Joliu Technical College. These are students and I believe professors from the technical college. It is the only technical college for hundreds of miles right around that dot that you saw in that map. And we've been able to support Joliu Technical College with funds for salaries for professors, and scholarships for women, and also some of the infrastructure that they need, enabling some of the women to pursue education, higher education in conservation, public health, sustainable agriculture, and provide opportunities for them, future opportunities and careers, both in conservation and public sector and the communities where they live. Next slide, please. On the left here, you have Dr. Gladys, who is the co-founder of Conservation Through Public Health, which is based in Uganda and focuses around the protected area of windy impenetrable forests, where we have a large population of highland gorillas. She's a vet by training, but she realized early on that if the gorillas are going to be protected and their health maintained, then the health of the communities also need to be maintained, and their livelihoods need to be supported. So that she started Conservation Through Public Health back in 2003, and we've been able to support her through work supporting women's groups, coffee farmers, 200 women who, maybe it's 200 people who provide public health for the communities around those areas. On the right, we have a project by Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund International, which is working around the Nkuba protected area with women's groups, again, working on livelihoods and conservation. Next slide, please. On the left, we have a women coffee farmer that our partner, the Kula Project, is working with. They provide support in agroforestry training, livelihood training, career development, and also personal well-being for their women that they work with. And this is in Rwanda. And to the right, we have one of our Women's Leadership Circle members who is taking some of the funds that we've given in small grants to all our Women's Leadership Circle members and training the community on both agroforestry and agriculture, sustainable agriculture. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, one of the things we did this year was launch our new offerings for the Center for Gender and Equity and Environment. We're working with agroforestry organizations across sub-Saharan Africa, and our initial, the goal with the center is to actually provide resources for organizations that are women-led and organizations that want to better integrate gender equity into the conservation they do on the ground. And so we've started working with agroforestry NGOs working on a 7-part gender mainstreaming course where we help participants learn how to effectively integrate gender into both their projects and their institutions, from design all the way through to implementation. The other part of it that Liliane is going to talk about is a women's leadership circle, which is really exciting. One of my favorite parts of it, where we bring together, we brought together 21 women, and a couple of them are on the call from across Sub-Saharan Africa, working on agroforestry and helping them with networking, learning from each other, and so that they can better pursue their professional and personal goals. And we do, of course, seed grants is a key part. We can't just do the training, we have to give resources for so that they actually can implement their training. And the seed grants are really meant to be trust-based and based on what the needs are, and just letting them, they know best what they need, and we provide funds for them to do that. Now I'll hand it over to Liliane, who will talk a little bit more about the Women's Leadership Circle and grants.
Thank you, Carl. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Yeah. So nice to be here, and I am going to present about Women Leadership Circle. It's hard to choose a favorite program in Planet Women, but this has been really one of the programs that has shown like direct impact in the community. And yeah, I will start with explaining for those who don't know what a Women Leadership Circle is. So it's a program that brings together women environmental leaders from different African countries together to share about their personal and professional challenges and success, so that they can learn from each other. Like Emma said, through this program, the women learn about what it is to be a woman in the environmental field. What are the unique challenges that women face in those fields, and how can they overcome those challenges? The program consists of 22 women from 15 different African countries, and these women are some of them are managers, executive directors, finders, and activists in the environmental field. The program consists of 8 sessions with different topics ranging from storytelling and communication to impact and influence, changing workplace culture to philanthropy and fundraising. We have had it. And also, the program helps members to build a sense of sisterhood, access to knowledge and information. We have had different speakers coming to help us through all these topics. And we had Christine come to our program, and imagine learning from Christine about philanthropy. I can't think of a better speaker about that. And the women were really inspired, and they by those topics, because fundraising is really one of the fundraising has been one of the needs in terms of what they need in terms of learning and knowledge, and it was impactful to have such a conversation. What is unique about Women Leadership Circle? There's a lot of unique things in this program, but I will highlight a few. The first one is that it's a community-based approach, and the women are empowered to apply homegrown solution in their own communities. And secondly, I think through this program, we work with the people instead of working for the people. I think those two are very different. It's like when you work with the people, you collaborate with them instead of bringing programs, instead of thinking for them, you think together. So we always make sure that even when designing the program, the women are involved. When designing the first session, it's about asking them what their needs are. That's how actually we come up with the topics, and that's how we think about people we can invite, so that those people can respond to the needs of the women. And also we run 3 surveys. So at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of this the program, we run surveys asking what has been impactful in the program, what can be changed, what can be improved, and what did not go well, so that we can use that in the next for the next cohort, but also for the program to keep evolving and improving. Also, at the end of the another really highlight of the program is that we do not only focus on the personal challenges, on the professional challenges. I think that in this fast-paced world, you know, when we talk about professional achievement, we think about, you know, professional challenges, but we forget the human element of that process, you know. And so it's the mixture of personal challenges and professional challenges for the personal development of these women. I think it's really important. At the end of the program, the women submit projects that they want to implement in their communities, and they receive grants to be able to implement those programs. And another highlight is that the grant is distributed through trust-based giving approach. I'm sure many of you are aware of this approach, where it doesn't take a lot of paperwork, and it's you know, it makes it easy for people to access funding. And among the only 3 reports that I've been able to, we're still receiving reports from the implementation, but only from 3 people who have been able to implement their programs, who have sent in their report, more than 60 people have been impacted. And this is a $3,000 grant. So I have been, when thinking about this, it's a small grant, but because they're able to really have access to communities through trainings, and they are like part of that community, they are able to actually touch to many different people. Some of the proposals range from training to writing bibliography and so many other really impactful programs. So I think moving forward, just to one more few seconds, what we're doing is that we're planning to have a gathering in 2024 to bring these women together to meet in person. So and also staying in touch, and also trying to be more supportive to this group of women, amazing women leaders. I think that's all, and thank you so much for all of you for the amazing work that you were doing.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Lillian.
Oh.
Oh, that is so magical. I love hearing about what's being accomplished with CG. So we are going to take another zippy flight from the 2nd largest rainforest in the world over to the largest rainforest in the world, the Amazon River Basin. So if you look out your plane window, you should see misty treetops as far as the eye can see, because the Amazon is 2.7 million square miles, which is about 35 to 40% of the whole of South America. It's roughly equivalent to all of the lower 48 states in the United States together. So it's an enormous area. It's so rich in biodiversity that biologists still discover new species there every day. You may have heard people call the Amazon the lungs of the world, because it contributes 20% of our global oxygen. It regulates global temperatures and rainfall. It's an absolutely magical place. Unfortunately, it is facing steep deforestation. About 17% of the Amazon's forest cover has been lost. Scientists estimate that if we reach 20 to 25% of forest cover lost, that the Amazon would reach potentially a tipping point and permanently convert to grasslands. So, you know, we're in a dangerous time where we really have to fight the deforestation in the Amazon. And the key drivers for deforestation vary country to country, but the largest is by far Brazil, with cattle ranching and soy farming. And across the Amazon, there's large and small scale agriculture, oil mining, gold mining, and all sorts of other ways that the forest is being lost. However, standing in the face of this deforestation are 500 distinct indigenous peoples who own and manage about 30% of the land in the Amazon, as well as 45% of the remaining intact forest. So they're really doing a fantastic job stewarding the remaining biodiversity in this area. And luckily, many federal governments have now recognized the importance of the work that Indigenous peoples are doing. And so they're really investing in strengthening Indigenous communities as part of preserving the Amazon. And you're seeing a lot of people within these countries where the Amazon exists who are also standing up for protecting the forest, protecting Indigenous rights, and creating climate justice. So that's very exciting. And to align with that, this year, Planet Women has really been focused on resourcing Indigenous women and their communities within the Amazon basin, supporting environmental education and career training for girls and women who live in rural forested areas, and enabling youth leaders to have a larger platform to advocate for nature, for Indigenous rights, and for climate justice. And so you can see, due to the generosity of our donors, we were able to grant $150,000 to 5 partner organizations this year. 47% of the funds went to Indigenous causes, and 50% went to youth-led organizations and youth-led projects. So thank you for that. Next slide, please. We're going to talk about a couple of the projects. And we're a little behind time, so I will try to go quick. So this is in Ecuador. Ecuador is an amazing place where Indigenous communities have really created a powerful voice for themselves to expel oil mining. You may have heard they had a landmark referendum that was passed at the urging of Indigenous activists this year to stop oil drilling in Yasuni National Park, which is a really important park in the Amazon basin. And that's actually a photo from Yasuni on the right. That's a common squirrel monkey. And we're really thrilled to have supported Quechua women through Rainforest Partnership, through amazing work they're doing with Indigenous women in 5 Quechua communities. 100 women have been served. They live along the Rio Napo, which is right outside Yasuni National Park. And so the grant that we provided is really allowing the women to strengthen their own capacity to steward their forest home. And so funds went to things like internet access and solar power, as well as helping them set up sustainable businesses to generate income and remain on their land. Next slide, please. This is just a feel-good story. It is one small story of a lot of different kinds of work that our partner Women for Conservation has achieved in Colombia this year. But this is a real-life magic school bus. For all of you who ever read Mrs. Frizzle's Magic School Bus, this is it. The photos in the top left and bottom right are actually the school bus. It's called Rana Chiva. They refurbished an old beaten down bus and made it into a magical mobile classroom. They visited 50 schools across Colombia and reached 7,000 children. And through art and games and interactive experiences, they teach these kids about native species in Colombia and the importance of protecting nature. Yay, so fun. And next slide, please. I am so thrilled to share about work that Cultural Survival has done. This is actually, we granted to Cultural Survival over the last 3 years. And last year, one of the projects that they funded was bringing together 15 Indigenous women who are environmental defenders on their own lands across the Amazon basin for virtual trainings to learn about communication, fundraising, digital tools, all sorts of things. And their request, the women's request, was that they really wanted to get together in person. And so this year we were able to grant funds to allow that to happen. The gathering just happened in October in Santa Cruz, Bolivia. These women came from countries across the basin to meet up for the first time in person. And Nathy Garcia, who's the lead at Cultural Survival, said the women connected instantly. They felt like sisters and just fell right into a strong rapport. And the women actually, similarly to the Women's Leadership Circle, were able to create the agenda themselves. So they wanted to learn more about digital tools, and they wanted to learn more about fundraising. And Nati, who is a brilliant creative facilitator, that is her background, she had the idea of doing some interactive activities. So for fundraising, Cultural Survival actually wrote a funding proposal, and the women pretended like they were the donor and they were going to review the proposal and decide if they were going to fund it. So it was a nice way to sort of put them in the shoes of a donor and help them think through like what's important, what's compelling, how do you get a grant? And that photo on the left, just because it's so beautiful, the Indigenous community that is native to the area in Bolivia where they held the retreat wanted to welcome these women. And so at the beginning of the event, they put on a dance. And so that's some of the dancers right there. And so a neat sort of parallel moment in Planet Women is that the same week that Cultural Survival was hosting this wonderful gathering of environmental women defenders in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, in Santa Cruz, California, at the same time, Janet was hosting 100 Women Pathway with a whole gathering of women environmental leaders discussing some parallel ideas. So I'm going to take us from Santa Cruz, Bolivia, up to coastal California to Santa Cruz and turn it over to Janet Wen to talk about 100 Women Pathway.
Thank you, Jojo. It's great to see everyone. I'm Janet, as Jojo said. I created and launched the 100 Women Pathway last year. And yes, our in-person gathering for our third cohort of the pathway just happened last month in Santa Cruz with 15 incredible rising leaders. So here they are, and you'll recognize some of them in the audience today. So welcome. These are all women who work in the environmental field and at various career levels and in different roles, including fundraising, program management, scientific research, tribal relations, and more. What is it that they have in common? They were all identified by women CEOs or executive directors as rising women leaders with the potential to become executive leaders within the next 3 to 5 years. The 100 Women Pathway is designed to support them in leveraging their personal and professional experiences and identifying their path to executive leadership. Why do we believe at Planet Women that this work is so important? Well, because despite recent efforts to diversify environmental organizations and really organizations in general in the world, progress is unacceptably slow. With growing gender research indicating that we can improve environmental outcomes by including more women and women of color in leading and delivering solutions, we can't afford to allow women to continue to be overlooked and languish in middle management positions for years. Advancing more women and more women of color into senior leadership roles and advocating for a different leadership paradigm grounded in equity and inclusion is the most impactful thing we can do to transform the cultures that have long been broken in environmental organizations. Next slide. So how does the 100 Women Pathway achieve this? We really bring together a community of talented women leaders to explore their personal journey, and watching these women truly see and feel their power in a way that they're not expecting is transformative. We challenge the societal expectations and judgments of women, and we see ourselves for who we are and discover what is really possible when we believe that we're the ones to lead. Next slide, please. So how far have we come? Well, we've had 50 women CEOs nominate 90 women for the 100 Women Pathway. And we have had 46 rising leaders across 3 cohorts in the past 2 years, with more than 60% of those leaders identifying as Black, Indigenous, or as a person of color. With this third cohort, we welcomed our first rising leaders working in the government space, and we invested over $300,000 in the 100 Women Pathway in fiscal year 2023. As we look ahead, we'll be launching new cohorts in 2024, as well as additional programming to amplify our work, including coaching circles to meet the most pressing needs of our cohorts and alumni on their leadership journey. It's really been wonderful. It's really been wonderful to watch this program grow, and it's wonderful to see everyone here today. Thank you for your support of Planet Women and the 100 Women Pathway. And now I'm going to pass it to Kimberly, who will close us out today.
Thank you so much, Janet. Oh, this has been so lovely. I'm stepping in for Liza, who is not here because she is at a session of regenerative leadership right now. So I'll be talking about that. And we'll play a little video so you can hear from Liza directly. Regenerative Leadership is a 7-week leadership program. You can see the description here, but it's really so much more than that. So it is for environmental practitioners of all identities at all levels of their career. And it's really one of a kind because it creates an experience where people come into community to better understand ourselves, our lineage, our values. And we do that in a systems context. So looking at the ways that colonialism and capitalism intersect with our personal histories and our work as change makers and the environmental movement more broadly. And then we look at solutions. So alternative ways of leading, of building reciprocity and community, and creating spaces where real transformation can occur. So I was able to be in this latest cohort of regenerative leadership, and it was very clarifying in terms of my own leadership path. So much appreciation to Liza. And let's try to play this quick video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liza Keanuenoe-Okoleni-Williams, and I am the Director of Cultural Transformation at Planet Women. I'm also the creator and facilitator of the Regenerative Leadership Project. The Regenerative Leadership Project is an intimate learning journey where participants take a deep dive into how their identities and their strengths inform how they lead. I love regenerative leadership because we work to elevate voices that have been historically marginalized in the conservation sector. We're just wrapping up our 4th cohort of regenerative leadership this month. And I'm so excited because this makes 45 participants from around the world who have taken regenerative leadership. So I really believe that we're starting a movement. Next year, I look forward to offering more programming around regenerative leadership. So keep your eyes open for that. And I also want to thank each and every one of you for supporting Planet Women in the ways that you have supported us. We couldn't do our work without you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So as Liza mentioned, 45 people have taken regenerative leadership. The goal is to scale this. It's really the leadership paradigm and model that I believe we need for not just for the environmental movement, but to be and live and work differently in a way that is connected to the earth and connected to each other. Really cool. Participants have joined from 7 countries, including Indonesia and Madagascar. They've gotten up at 4:30 in the morning to attend and stayed on late at night. And Liza is working on a workbook so that folks can coordinate their own regenerative leadership circles and get this to more people. And I noticed that Dr. Liza just joined us. Regenerative leadership wrapped up. So if you have questions about the program, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. So now we have really gone on a journey and we are going to transition to opening up the discussion to you all. Just as a recap, I know it was a whirlwind and hopefully you have no motion sickness. Hopefully it was very smooth. The peanuts and the pretzels have been sufficient for you. So what we did was we have gone through our 2 strategies, protect nature and support communities, which includes our geographic priority areas, transforming the culture of conservation, our 2 leadership programs. And we're really excited to hear from you all. So if you have a question, I'll invite you to please raise your Zoom hand. You can also put it into the chat. If you don't have a question, but you want to say something that really resonated for you in particular about this tour, we'd love to hear that. I would just ask that to get as many voices in the room as possible, let's all just be mindful of keeping questions and comments as brief as possible. Hi, Liza.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry I missed the beginning. I know it was good.
Thanks. Hope I did you justice.
You did. Thank you.
We also have some partners on the call. So if you want to say a quick hello, we have some people from the women's leadership circles, but I'll give you a second to just take it all in. Steve has a question. Take it away, Steve.
Hey everyone, I just want to say thanks to the Planet Women folks for putting all this together. It's just, in a sea of what feels like really negative news, it's nice to see such great and hear such great stories about really positive action going on in the world. The regenerative leadership idea made me think about business schools. I don't want to sidetrack us, but I'm offering, that in my own experience, I spent 20 years doing some leadership development in the business school context. And I so wish that Dr. Liza could go and help some of those people see the connections and, make some connections around what business leadership really the responsibilities that business leaders have for taking care of the environment. So that I just want to make that comment. And again, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Steve. It's fun to hear what comes up for people as we talk about all this work.
Can I just jump in real quick first? Yeah. Thanks for your comments, Steve. I just wrapped up our last regenerative leadership cohort just now, which is why I was a little bit late. But I just wanted to say, yeah, absolutely. I think regenerative leadership can be applied to any sector, especially for business. We do talk a lot about economies in different ways. Of course, we talk about capitalism and our relationship to capitalism, but also there have been a number of people who've taken regenerative leadership that do work in conservation, but also are starting businesses or beginning businesses or running businesses. I'm sorry. So absolutely. If you have any questions going forward, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm here. So thank you.
Thanks. Charlene, hello. Oh yeah, it looks like you're muted.
So just an idea that popped up. So the presentation was absolutely amazing. I feel a little motion sickness, I'll say. It was a pretty fast flight. But what it reminded me of is something, I do a little bit of coaching, and one of the things that I just talked to somebody about this morning was on how to document outcomes. And sometimes we know it's for funders, but it's also for organizations themselves. I think people work so hard and so quickly that they don't always understand that they actually have already made a difference. And so maybe that's like a session that Planet Women could offer just on how to document outcomes, how to share them, and not just document them, but also how to create visuals that are helpful to their own organization, but also to funders and such. And the different modes we need to do it in. So it needs to be in video, it needs to be in slides, it needs to be in so many different formats, because that's how we take in information today. But again, the plane ride was wonderful and the work is amazing. So happy to be here and spend this time with everybody.
Thank you.
And I just want to comment that Charlene is both a 100 Women Pathway cohort member, as well as someone who went through the regenerative leadership program. So she really knows what she's talking about.
Yes, and Charlene was a big part of our year in a number of different ways, including presenting at the International Women's Day event. So thank you so much, Charlene, for being in our community and for all you do for the Ohlone people and all of us. Really appreciate that. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be part of this group.
other questions, comments?
I'll ask a question, but first express some gratitude to the awesome team at Planet Women. It's so good to see all your faces and also see the impact. I apologize for my lateness. Rewild was actually having our internal team call on impact and M&E, so it was kind of fun to switch gears from ours to yours. I also really appreciated your version of your story and really how it brought the power of the work you are doing forward. As some of you know, I've had the privilege of being part of the 100 Women Pathway, and Rewild has since become a more deepening into our good troublemaking. Christine and I did some co-funding of a youth program partnership, and we are currently, a few of us are working to make some future good trouble to support more women of color, particularly African-American women, and helping support them walking into greater positions of leadership. Something I have mentioned to a few of the Planet Women staff, and I'm keen to hear others' thoughts as well. And Emma, this is the first time you and I are getting to have a bit of an interface. It's great to see you and meet you. I think we're seeing a lot more young women, particularly women of color, who are not seeing positions that they want to step into, or positions advertised, or organizations that really look particularly delicious and inviting for them to even put their energy towards. So they're starting their own. And I think that is what we need more of. We had the privilege of supporting the minorities in shark sciences through our youth programming at Rewild this last year. And it was 4 Black women that met during COVID online and just identified each other as women of color who work in shark sciences, and they didn't know anyone else like them. And they thought they should start a club. And instead of starting a club, they started an organization that now has over 200 members, including all gender minorities of color globally, and they're making a difference. And I want to see that like 100 times more. And so these women are all under the age of 30. They are now charged with leading at a quickly growing organization that's garnering a lot of public attention. I think we need more of that now. So I'm wondering what Planet Women is thinking about women who might be under 30 and are keen to be stepping into real leadership roles because they don't see opportunities with advertised in some of the bigger NGOs or even some of the smaller local organizations. How might we support them and those new ideas? Because again, I feel like we need Miss times 1,000 women identifying themselves and not seeing them, if they don't see the position, starting their own. And how do we support them in their leadership journey?
Great question. Thank you, Nina. Would anyone like to respond to that?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. Hi, everybody. Thank you for that awesome question. Thank you, Nina, for being a part of our community. I remember a conversation a few years ago with another CEO, and we were talking about our organizations, and she runs a rather large organization. And she ended up just saying, look, I don't know if it's worth trying to fix what's already here. I think we just need people to start new things, because then you can develop the paradigm in a way that's perhaps more full of joy and light and compassion and can really be something different. And that's always stuck with me, because she runs a very august, very established organization. And for her to say that, it just made me realize that it's not an either or one's going to work and one's not. It's how do we create a much bigger, more inclusive community so that we're out of our silos and we're out of the organizations that made us. And certainly Nina and I share another big organization that was a big part of our lives. And you can't deny that, and yet you can still move in a new direction. So I feel like creating funds and creating other opportunities to support startups and to support new ideas, especially from people who aren't seeing what they want in the world, is definitely another way to go. It's not the only way to go, because we still need to support effective work that's happening at all levels, whether it's the grassroots or it's government or it's business. And finally, I'll just end by saying, I think our sector is way too tiny. When you look at environmental organizations in the big scheme of things, especially in the United States, when you're looking at philanthropy, it's a very small part of the bigger society. What do people care about? They care about education, they care about healthcare, they care about their religion, they care about a lot of different values. And we're just a small piece of that. So I think if we step back and think about environmental leadership being for everybody, not just for people who work in NGOs, not just for people who work for the Environmental Protection Agency, but anyone who's a citizen of planet Earth needs to understand what's going on with the trees, with the soil, with the air, with the carbon, because it impacts us all in good ways, but also some very harmful ways as we counter the harmful impacts of climate change. So thank you for that, Nina.
Thank you. Emma, did you have a response to this or a different one? Different question.
Yeah, no, I was like struggling to find raise your hand there, but hi Nina, it's good to meet you. I was about to slide into your DMs right here. So yeah, I think that is something that I think a lot about, especially transitioning from the human rights sector, innovation, and more environmentalism. I think totally what you're saying about investing in youth, whether you're 30 below or 10, whatever it is, it's as soon as we start planting that seed. Being a Native myself, being Diné and growing up on the reservation, that's such a huge focus of our culture. And I know many other cultures, caring for our elders and making sure that youth are inspired and given opportunities. And so I think it's really important to invest in the youth. And I think that's a way to indigenize and start thinking about inclusion of communities. And then also, you know, not having the separation of humans and the earth, because I think that's one thing that I sort of struggle with when talking about these issues and again, solutions, is people are very much thinking about them as siloed things when really what affects humans affects the earth, what affects the earth affects humans. And it's really about changing our mindset and the way that we all talk about our work, whether we're doing this professionally or not, to remember that these things are braided together and not separated. Because I think once we start thinking about things that way, it's really going, you know, on a much bigger level, it's going to shift the way that women and femmes are involved in things.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Nina, I just want to comment, with this new cohort, we actually did welcome someone who's very early in her career for the first time. And when the executive director nominated her, she really advocated for her. And so she was our first, you know, kind of younger generation leader that we had in the pathway. And we absolutely intend to continue with that in future cohorts, as well as continue with the government sector. And who knows, you know, other countries want us to come there too. So lots to do.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump in here because we are at the hour. We're going to actually take questions for another 15 minutes, but I want to invite us to just take a second and reflect on how much we all value what we've discussed today, the programs and the projects and the partnerships, and also the approach that Planet Women in this much broader global community is taking to solving really big, urgent crises. So, and doing so in a way that is centering the people that really need to be centered and opening up leadership and power to people and communities with really deep wisdom that we urgently need. So if this resonates with you, I'm just going to invite you to maybe join us, go a little deeper with Planet Women. So I'm going to share this quick slide because it's so cute. So we have a membership program at Planet Women that started exactly 1 year ago today. Happy birthday, Ripple. And I steward the Ripple program, but I also am a Ripple member personally because I really support the work that Planet Women is doing. And right now we have a membership drive going on. So membership starts at $10 a month. And our goal is to welcome 40 new members to the Ripple by December 31st. So I invite you to really consider joining us. We are developing this program. We're co-creating it. I would love to hear your ideas for what we can do as a community. Recently, myself and Lillian co-hosted a knowledge exchange that invited Yasmina Hasni, who is a Ripple member, and she lives in Indonesia. She's a climate educator for mothers and their children. She really wanted opportunities for women who are working in the environmental sector globally to come together, specifically for her community in Indonesia, who they really wanted some inspiration of how things are being done in other places. So 2 speakers from the Women's Leadership Circle presented and talked about their work and challenges as women in their, respective contexts, and it was really beautiful and intimate discussion. So we hope to have many more of those, as well as other fun opportunities. So please join us. You can, hopefully Jojo will put it into the chat. It's planetwomen.org/theripple. And we will celebrate you. We are a small team, and you joining us makes us feel like our team is a whole lot bigger. And not only does your support power this work, but it also really powers us because we're 3 years old and we're growing our support base and trying to do so in a way that is very community-centric, using the community-centric model, which shout out to my colleague Lisa Quinn on this call, who is a big proponent of that. So thank you so much for considering membership. And as a special membership drive bonus, anyone who's a member on December 31st will be entered to win some sweet merch from Planet Women and our partners. So I just want to say that. And here on the screen, oh yeah, this is cute, but also purposeful. So on the screen, we have the Kim family. So they support us through the Ripple, as well as Bella, who's in the orange dress. She is a Ripple member and our youth ambassador. So you can see some writing that Bella has done on our blog. And she's actually working on a story about Yasmina, who I mentioned, and her work. So Planet Women does a lot of gathering folks and bringing together circles of people and widening the circle. So we really appreciate your support. Yasmina is here on the right. And below is Maggie Stogner, who's a documentary filmmaker, as well as a professor at American University in documentary film. And she donates to the Ripple in dedication to her mother, who was a water warrior in Los Angeles. So you can donate for yourself, you can donate for your children, you can donate for your ancestors. Either way, we really appreciate you considering. So that's my plug for the Ripple. And we'll keep going on our Q&A here for a few more minutes. So raise your hand if you have a question. Jennifer Miller, thank you for your Ripple membership. Aw.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Nice
My
to
camera
meet
back
you.
on.
Nice to see you. But not
Nice
over
to see
email.
you all too. Thank you so much. Again, I know I put this in the chat, but what a fabulous treat the session was this afternoon. I so enjoyed being invited to it and having a chance to hear from all the people who are doing so much great work. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
We so appreciate you.
Any other questions? Final thoughts? We have some partners. Ingrid, you're on the call. Go
Yes.
ahead.
I just wanted to say it's really wonderful to see us in context of all the work y'all do and all the similarities. And yeah, it's such exciting work. I think I really support it with all my heart. And we obviously have benefited from working with Planet Women now for the 3rd year. And it's, we have, for example, in this past year, one of the top students from Jolu Technical College has just finished her bachelor's and is now going on to a master's, and then will come back to the college to teach. She's super bright, so we're really excited about that. And we have some other good news, I think, that I'm not going to mention, but so anyways, so it's just really lovely to see everyone and work with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Thanks for the great work you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Congo
Thank
Education.
you.
Love ya.
Right. Yes. Sorry.
Ingrid is a brilliant force behind Congo Education Partners, and the presentation you did at one of our events, I'll never forget. It was so, yeah, it's always great to see you and hear from you, Ingrid.
Thank you. Likewise. I wish I could fly a plane. Just to say, that's one of the things I missed in life, but that's neither here nor there.
Christine can take you anytime.
Anytime.
Thanks. Nice thought.
We wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. This has been, it feels like Christmas for me, it's such a gift.